Rabbi asked me if I knew how to turn on the mic. There we go. I got it. Good evening. How is everyone? Yes, nice to be here in person. We want to thank you so much for being here tonight. My name is Christina Mendonça. I'm the host of the KFBK Morning News. I also am a 25, 30-year resident of Folsom. Absolutely love this community and a passionate student of history, like many of you. Today we mark Holocaust Remembrance Day, January 27th, the date that Auschwitz concentration and death camp complex was liberated in 1945. Just months before, in August of 1944, there were 135,000 prisoners there. But the Red Army was launching offensives and 60,000 prisoners were forced on a death march away from the camp. When they got there, they found about 7,000 prisoners had been left behind, most of whom were seriously ill due to the effects of their imprisonment. The majority of those left behind were middle-aged adults or children younger than the age of 15. Although liberating the camp was not their initial goal, the Soviet soldiers arrived to find the prisoners. They also found 600 corpses, 370,000 men's suits, 837,000 articles of women's clothing, and 7 tons of human hair. Our guest tonight was just 11 years old when Auschwitz was liberated. She had spent the previous 4 years not at Auschwitz, but at a holding center that was a final stop before sending people onto death camps. I will let her tell you why she was held there and what she saw. In 2020, before the world went batty, Rabbi Grossbaum reached out to ask me to host an evening with Irving Roth. He was a Holocaust survivor that came to our community to speak. And I knew it would be well attended, but I, to this day, have never seen more people inside this building than on that night. So it is just really lifts my heart to see the building this full on this night as we're still going through the pandemic. We all know, everyone here knows that these remembrances are very important. Without them, we are setting ourselves up to repeat history. So we start our evening with a familiar face to many of you. Rabbi Yossi Grossbaum is the executive director at the Chabad Jewish Community Center. He grew up in Australia, served in Canada, now makes Northern California his home. He and his wife Goldie and their lovely family have become part of the fabric of this community. And even as a lifelong Catholic, I would tune in to Rabbi Grossbaum's 10 Minutes of Torah for inspiration during the darkest days of the lockdown. I really did, and for good words during the pandemic. So please help me welcome Rabbi Yossi Grossbaum.
Thank you, Christina. And that's the second time today that someone mentioned the 10 Minutes of Torah on Tuesdays. I've been slacking off recently. I guess I have to get back in the groove. First, I just want to thank everyone that's here tonight. And it's important that for these type of events, in order to put something like this on, it takes a lot of people, volunteers, and especially donors who enable us to be able to do what we are able to do. And I wanted to mention particularly all those who are on your papers that you could see. The Hidden Table Catering, they do also kosher catering, believe it or not. Legend, or events, the law office of Kevin Duell, Breakmasters, Terra Firma Group, Brit Honey, photography, she's here. And Mr. Todd White, give us a wave. And particularly, I wanted to mention Westner Insurance Group, Western Insurance and Financial Services with Farmers Insurance, very passionate about educating the younger generation. And any students that are here, are there any students here tonight? So they helped subsidize the cost of your tickets tonight. So you should, when you get your first car, go to them for the insurance. The Chabad Jewish Community Center was started about 15 years ago by myself and my wife Goldie. She's here. And we opened the Chabad Center on the inspiration of the Lubavitcher Rebbe. The Lubavitcher Rebbe was a leader of the Jewish world, but concerned about every single individual. he made it his cause to try and make this world a little bit better, a little bit brighter. And something that we adopted as a motto of ours was something that he would very often quote, which is that a little light dispels much darkness. Every act of goodness that we do has a ripple effect that we can never imagine. Imagine if you're in a dark room, in a pitch black room, you take one match, one little flame, you can already see the outline of the room. You can tell what's there. You can stop yourself from bumping into some furniture. In a dark world, every act of goodness, every act of kindness has a major ripple effect. And we never know to what extent it can affect and influence other people and transform this world from a darker place to a lighter place, to a better place. There's someone who you may have heard of before, or at least his company that he started. Anyone here drink Starbucks? Once in a while, maybe, perhaps? Okay. Howard Schultz from Starbucks tells a story. He was once in Israel, and he visited with a great rabbi in Israel at the time, who's since passed away. His name is Rabbi Nosson Tzvi Finkel. He was a Holocaust survivor, and he rebuilt his life after the Holocaust in Israel, taught in the Mir Yeshiva, a very famous yeshiva. And the rabbi says to them, he says to these group of philanthropists coming from America, a comfortable existence, never experienced the type of deprivation and hardship that he had to go through. He says to them, what is the most important lesson of the Holocaust? You're educated people, successful people. What's the most important lesson from the Holocaust? And they're like bumbling a little bit. The way he tells the story, it's amazing. He says, one kind of mumbled a little bit and said, never again. And someone else said something along those lines. But no one really had a way to express what obviously this rabbi was looking for. So he says to them, let me tell you what it was like in the concentration camp. We were 6 or 8 people to a plank of wood stuffed in, that was our quarters. And to every 8 people stuffed into these shelves, they would give us one blanket. You couldn't really call it a blanket. It was a thin piece of material infested with bugs. But what would happen was that everyone that was there would push the blanket to the other people to try to share it as much as possible, and try to warm the other people that were in the room on that plank of wood with them. And he says the most important lesson of the Holocaust is not necessarily that we don't forget it, not necessarily that we make sure it doesn't repeat itself. Obviously, those are important. To a certain extent, it goes without saying. But the most important lesson is if you have a blanket, make sure that you share your blanket with the next person. And if you have more than a blanket, make sure you share that with the next person as well. That was his take. He had been there personally, he had experienced it. He said, go back to America, take your blanket, and share it with other people. And I was born years after the Holocaust. Obviously, I was affected like probably many of us, at least many people in the Jewish community. My grandmother was the only survivor of her family. My grandfather was one of 2 in his family, and they were large families. My grandfather on the other side was one of, my great-grandfather, I should say, on the other side. He came to America in the early 1900s. The rest of his family was in Europe, never made it out. So we're all personally affected, but we weren't there. We can, though, learn the lessons that are most important. And we'll hear tonight from Dr. Miller. We'll hear the personal experience. But I encourage all of you to take a moment to consider how we can make it personal, how we can take our blanket and share it with others, how we can take a moment in the darkest of times when things are difficult and things are upsetting and there's pressures from all sides. We still have the ability to bring positivity to others. We still have the ability to bring benefit to others. We still have the ability to spread a little bit of light. So I encourage you, when you leave tonight, take a moment to consider how you could be part of making this world a brighter place. Before I give it back to Christina, I just want to make a couple of quick announcements. Save you from these announcements afterwards. In a couple of weeks, we're going to be having something special over here. It's a New York-style kosher deli. It's going to be a pop-up kosher deli. And you can find the details on our website, jewishfolsom.org/deli. If you wanted to order, you could do that. And that's something you could do. It's a nice cultural Jewish experience. And then you're hearing it here first. This is the first time it's being announced to such an audience. We're in the process of laying the groundwork to build an amazing facility in Northern California. It's going to be serving the entire Northern California. It's going to be right here in Folsom. It's going to be the Jewish Experience Museum. And the official launch of that project is going to be on April 6th at an event that's called the Passover Experience. It's going to be styled like a Passover Seder, but it'll be interactive and fun. And that's when we're going to be officially launching the event, and information about that will be coming out. But meanwhile, you can mark your calendar for April 6th. With that, I'm going to pass it back to Christina. Thank you very much for coming. And please give your attention to Christina and then to Dr. Miller.
That's exciting. Dr. Erica Miller is with us tonight. She is a multifaceted, dynamic speaker and author with a long history of telling it like it is. You know she's a Holocaust survivor. She is also an entrepreneur, world traveler, international best-selling author, and she captivates with wisdom and empowering insight that gives audiences of all ages a unique look at how to overcome life's challenges. In our interview recently, she shared with me her love of pickleball, her gratitude for life, and how she has framed her experiences during the Holocaust to allow her to pursue such a full life. Please help me welcome Dr. Erica Miller. Thank you.
I have a voice. Can you hear me? When I was little, my mother had her hand over my mouth all the time to make sure that I don't give away the hiding place. When we were in camp, and my father was beaten, I wanted to go and rescue him, and she held me tight and put my hand on my mouth so I would not be killed. I have a voice now, and I heard what the rabbi said as far as meaning in life. I am not a survivor. Yes, I'm a survivor, but I identify myself as a striver. I'm not a victim. And it's kind of weird, I was thinking lately, that if not for my early experience, no kid should go through what I did. I was 7 when I was in camp, in the holding camp, and I'm going to tell you a little bit later. I can go on forever, I'm a storyteller. But before that, it was a normal life, but again, it's like things happen in a heartbeat. And if not for me being a curious and defiant little kid, I was very tough for my mama. I would not listen. I was spanked. I still went. I was curious. And I'm not, like I talked to one of the young ladies here, she's so curious, she wanted to come here and hear my story. And I said, I'm not Einstein, but Einstein said, curiosity is the best trait that a human being can have. Look at us being in space. Look what curiosity would start as what happens. So I was a curious little kid, and I could not speak because my mother sheltered me so that I would not give away our hiding place or not being shot because I wanted to get involved. And now I have such a voice. I'm heard all over the world. Don't tell me I cannot do it. Because again, living in the moment in spite of it and because of it. I'm a 3-time book, my first book that some of you, I signed for you. It's a story of my life, and the reason I made it happen because my sister was interviewed at USC. They have Spielberg HaShoah where they take out the testimony of people that survived. That was in the late 90s, and I didn't want to do it because my sister told the story already. But then it occurred to me, my life, my experience, my grit and my power, I'm little but mighty, I say, is so different than hers. She was beaten down all her life, I wasn't. So my first book became to be, I wanted to tell my story so my kids and grandkids would know me. All right, I can keep on going forever, but let me go back from the beginning. Up till 7, I had a normal life, whatever that means, with cousins, with family in a city called Czernowitz. It was Austro-Romania when my parents were born. Therefore, my mother tongue is German. And then came the Nazis, whatever. And in 1940, they were hunting for Jews. And we were hiding. I would not understand what's happening in the closet. We heard dogs barking, and the Germans, the Romanians, were hunting for Jews. The story is, I was 7. The story was that wherever they heard there's some Jews, they went and tried to get them to this train station to ship them to wherever, nobody knew where. We were hiding. And I remember flashes in the attic with straw and the dogs barking and my mother holding her hand over my face because, when you're a kid, you don't know what goes on. And parents here that you have young children, kids can deal with a lot if parents deal with it. I kept on asking, what's happening? I looked at the contorted faces of my parents and the uncle, and what's happening? Don't ask so many questions. So I was traumatized and I did not know it. So we ended up in a train station. And my memory, by the way, that's what trauma does. I was in a holding camp in Ukraine, in Mogilev, for 4 years, from 7 to 11. They did not get fast enough to us, because, again, there were a lot of Jews waiting in line. So the Russians liberated us in 1945. But 4 years is an eternity when you think. I was not a baby. I was 7. By the way, I'm 88. Look at me. I look pretty good, huh? You know what? I keep on saying I don't brag, I just share. Yeah. Right. So that trauma, trauma is not just the camp. People have trauma. That's the drama of life. But when I thought about 4 years is an eternity, and I remember flashes. What do you do for 4 years? I know that somebody had to teach me how to read and write. I never went to school, because you go to school in Romania and Austria then when you are 7. I went in the camp. So I don't remember faces. I remember children, jumping over dead bodies. We played. I remember, looking for garbage for food, and speaking about kindness of people and the brutality of people. I was told not to go to the guard. We were in a place when the rabbi said that, those people, that his rabbi, 8 people in a little place with a blanket. Yeah, the flashes come back. We were about maybe 20 people lined up when we just came to that encampment, the holding camp. People died from starvation and typhoid because they didn't get to us fast enough. And like I said, the Russians liberated us then last minute. We were emaciated like this, but we were still alive. Miracle. So 20 people were laying on the floor, and there was one woman wailing. She probably got lost from her people. So my mama, papa, my sister and me, my sister was 5 years older, we were all together, like if any of you was ever in Bali, monkeys, or some other place, holding together. We kept very close together, not to get lost. There was this one woman here, was wailing, crying. It was horrible silence. Everybody's laying in this room, we just got there. I wanted to reach out and touch her. I was 7 years old, but my mother held me tight. I could not. That contorted face of that woman, old woman, maybe she was 40, maybe she was 50, who knows? It never left me. I did not know it then, but I knew someday I had to heal that woman. And guess what? Forward, much forward, I happened to end up in Los Angeles. It's a long story. It's in my first book. And when I was safe, I married a Jewish boy from Independence, Missouri, that he bargained for me like his mother to be second in command. So when I felt safe, my son was in first grade, I decided I'm going to go back to school and that woman, to heal that woman, maybe heal myself. He looked at me, I decided I was safe. I'm going to go and become a psychologist. He looked at me, are you sure? He later said he thought he would rather be president of the United States than me even passing his 1 year of college. Guess what? 8 years later, I had my Ph.D. in psychology. Nobody wanted me to. But my point being is I had to heal that contorted face. I'm back and forth. By the way, there's going to be a movie made out of my part of my life. So I go back and forth. And back I go when I was told not to go to the guard in the camp. We were all kind of like barbed wired. Because the German, big fellow German Nazi was there. I was curious. I wanted to know the big bad wolf. So I did not listen to my mama, and I snuck in one day really close to look at him. Guess what? He grabbed me, and I said, I didn't listen to mama, it's going to kill me. So it's not fake news. It's interesting what trauma does. I have flashes of memory, a lot of things I don't remember, but something, it's like good or bad, that is trauma. He grabbed me, and he says, what are you doing here? What's your name? And I said, Erica. And he so helped me from that mean, bad wolf face. He softened up and he said, I have at home a little girl. Her name is Erica too. And so help me. It was like, I think they do to a cow or to a horse, they engrave the name. It was the song that he sang to me was absolutely engraved in my brain, and it goes, Auf der Heide blüht ein kleines Mädelein und es heißt Erika. There is a little wildflower, Heather, which my name is, I'm a wildflower, I still am, and it's called Erika. And then in a heartbeat, he changed from his soft face to the bad big wolf again, and he pushed me down, and he said, this is not a place for a little girl. Go back to where you come from. And I got up, he's not going to kill me. And I turned around, and here he threw me a chocolate bar. My point is the brutality of people and the kindness of people. I started a relationship with that bad wolf. It would kill me. I was only 7 years old. I had to gulp up. Food was a rarity. Food, we were like this. I could not share it. The blanket, the piece of candy. I could not share with mama and my sister. My father, the Germans took away because he spoke German and Romanian in the office. So I had to gobble up the chocolate so mama would not know that I was bad. I didn't listen to her. And I started to kind of, a routine. I used to sneak up when I saw that it was him and chocolate back and forth. So when I lectured a couple of times in churches, or other places. I think I was in Ireland or Canada. How do you feel about Germans? And I say, how do I feel about Jews? There's some good ones and some bad ones. So my point being is light, the kindness of people. Tikkun olam in Hebrew, repair the world. Mere fact that you are all here. I don't know your community, but I know. You are not Einstein, but you're curious, any of your age. It's really happened. Today is a remembrance. But it's not just about Holocaust. We have it in Somalia, in Africa, in Syria. We're speaking, unfortunately, anti-Semitism, brutality, bullying in school. It will never disappear completely. But we have to do our part. So coming back, I know I'm jumping back and forth, going back to the camp, my memory, it's just, I cannot get over how 4 years is an eternity when you think about it. And I just have flashes. I just remember this is still, I mean, dead people looking out the little window and having, on a little stool, there was a little tiny window, and see how guards, Jewish people with yellow stars, picking up the dead bodies. Like I said, people died from typhoid and starvation, and they looked so ugly to me. And I was thinking, my thought remained with me, maybe tomorrow I will be dead. I don't want to die ugly. Just before I die, I want to pose. Guess what? I'm still posing. And again, I know I'm not normal, but in a good way. I have a casket in the bottom of my bed, ready-made with studs, beautiful, and I had an artist painting me laying in a white dress. I'm a booty girl. Look at my boots. Huh? I'm delusional. I'm short and could do nothing about it. My papa was tall, and I wanted to be tall too bad. So I think with long dresses and boots makes me feel taller. Big deal. So here on the casket, it's a white dress with boots, glittery boots. So the point being is, it's not if, it's when. Being in the moment is essential. We don't ask to be born, and we clearly, unless we commit suicide, we don't want to live any longer. We don't choose to die, but it happens so that we cannot control. It's called destiny or Hashem or God. What do I know? I will never know. So I have a message to give. So my casket, my daughter used to say, Mother, nobody will come to the house. You know what? I said, hey, I'm an educator. It's not if, it is when. So let's be in the moment. Let's have vision. Let's see what we want. But again, it's going to happen. So it's not something yuck. I embrace it. I see dead people around me all the time. I'm not depressed or anything. It's a fact. I am who I am because of it, in spite of it. Just because I'm Jewish doesn't mean I have to die. Just because I'm a girl doesn't mean I cannot climb mountains with the boys or being married, have kids in a profession. So my second book that I wrote specifically for young people in the college when I lecture in Texas, in Austin, Texas, I have a home there too. It's like, don't tell me I cannot do it. Be audacious in the here and now. Live audaciously. Because again, tools. It's like sometimes you can be inspired because stress shortens life. And when I say my latest book that took me to a international bestseller, Chronologically Gifted, I researched, and you youngins here, it's not fake news. Centenarian and supercentenarian, people live longer. The oldest person, Benet something or other in France, she lived 122 in 64 days. Check me out on the internet, Google it. Not fake news. So I decided I wanted to know, because life is so precious, I want to know what is the chance, how long can I live? Guess what? She lived 122 in 64 days. I'm going to live to 123. I'll be in the book of Guinness. Guess what? Watch me. Huh? And if I'm dead tomorrow, so be it. Nothing I can do about it. I have already a legacy. So we're speaking about the gift of life that keeps on giving. And I'm not the only one, more are coming. And you can opt. Check it out. Google is a good one. Not perfect, but it's a good one. Somebody already is born can live to 150. And I don't mean just living, but living well. Because all the research with Casper Ford and Jimon splitting and all what they can do in order to prevent inflammation of the arteries, that's to give us longer to be able to live well and be part of the community just like you are. So I cannot believe, I never thought I would reach 20, 30. I'm still here. I turned 88. And I told one of the youngins that came and I signed a book for her. It's like, in 12 years, I'll be 100. Can you imagine that? 100. Look at me. I am training because I've not been in Mount Kilimanjaro yet to hike in Africa. I've been in Machu Picchu, Inca Trail, 11,000 feet, Mount Tibet, whatever, 17,000. Not fake news. I'm on the internet. I have a website. Check me out. I jumped out of a plane with my granddaughter just 3 years ago in Auckland, New Zealand. My grandkids want to travel with me. I'm such a cool Bobby. They call me Bobby, old lady. I'm an old lady. But it's like, don't tell me I cannot do it. So, I mean, it's a gift that keeps on giving. And if I make a difference, when I make you smile, I touch people in the elevator, not really touching. Hi, how is your day? Some of them look at me like, what is the matter with her? She's crazy. But most of them smile back. And it's about you give, you get. We're speaking about touching, reaching out to other. And that's you as a community. And I don't know you from diddly, but I do know you. So mere fact that you're here, you, me, not everybody, is in the process of evolving forever. Because it's never too late. It's too late for what? And I'm more coming like me, so I'm a good example. My mother was beaten down. At 50, she was old. My sister was kind of passive in no respect all her life. And to me, how lucky am I that I'm standing in front of you. If I have an audience of 1 or 2 or 1,000, I don't know how many you are, you're a few hundred at least, I share my spirit, I uplift, I tell the story, because Holocaust happened. Holocausts are still happening all over the world. And kids are bullied in school. So when but I remember when I was in this Catholic school, my friend, her granddaughter was there. I didn't particularly want to go 8 o'clock in the morning. I had to drive on the freeway in Los Angeles. But how can you say no to a friend? Because more and more Holocaust survivors, they die out. And it's different when you have a real person, or when you have a video of them. So I remember those questions, but me saying, hey, you know what? You are your brother's keeper. If you see your friend being bullied or somebody pushed, get involved, even if you get hurt, because you are your brother's keeper. We have to look out for each other. And I always ask, hey, have you heard of Elie Wiesel? He was a survivor and historian. I heard him once speak in the university in Texas, in Austin. The worst of human condition is apathy. To look away, like social psychology, you learn, in New York examples. Somebody's beaten and you don't want to see. No, because we are more good than bad. There is research. Freud used to say that we're all animals born and we have to be socialized. If not, everybody would be a criminal. No, it's not so. You take the latest research says that the goodness, we're born goodness more than bad. You take about 6 little babies. They barely can sit up straight. You have in front, you put them into, you wire their brain. That sounds brutal, but you connect them. And you show them puppets. Puppets that kick or puppets that are kind and hugging. Guess what? Time and again, they will choose the puppet that hugs, not the puppet that kills, not the puppet that is brutal. So there is the kindness of people and the brutality of people. It will never not be. So when somebody asked me, this gentleman from Cuba, he was worried what's happening, hey, it will never not be. The bullying, I'm better than you, looking up, looking down, it's a little bit rough. We all can make a difference. That's what the rabbi says too. Let's share our goodness, our blanket with those that need. Does not mean being selfless like my mother. It's like she didn't have a self. She was an extension of my father. She had no herself at all. So I'm not saying that. Like in the airport, first you put yourself in your mask, and then you help the other. Because everybody matters, so you do you. But we are part of the community, and we can, and that's what makes us live long and well. Because when I research, people that live long and well, not just living long, is those that, yeah, we all know wiggling is good, exercise and food and all that kind of thing. Faith is a really important thing. No matter what faith, I don't know about God. If God is destiny, I definitely believe in God. And we will never know, it doesn't matter. But what does it take for us to be living long and well? It's exactly what you are doing here. Look at you. Look at all that came out. This was a beautiful night in Folsom. Am I in Folsom? Yeah, I'm in Folsom. So, going back, my philosophy, I'm just lucky to be alive, and I'm not in La La Land. It's the gift that keeps on giving. I will never stop evolving as you, because there's always something new. And the neurons, when there's anything new, our neurons are firing, the excitement of the newness. It keeps us alert. So I know, because you're here, that you're going to hear my voice in your dream, my accent and voice. Well, do I have an accent? And people ask me, where are you coming? I said, why? Do I have an accent? And I like to make people pause. I like to be whimsical, shoot me. I say, well, I'm from Transylvania. I lived in Transylvania. And Dracula was my cousin. So again, I don't wear any eyeglasses. My grandkids do. I don't need to. It's not my fault. No hearing aids. I am, like I said, I have a constitution of an athlete. 23andMe told me so. That's not my fault. But again, life choices we make, because life is terribly short. And we do need each other. Nobody's better. So when I have a business, real estate in Austin, my husband of 53 years, he dared dying on me about 9 years ago. So he was a loose cannon, he was a teacher, and he borrowed from the first house, he bought a duplex, and then a triplex. So when there was a bust in Austin, Texas, he sold in Los Angeles, and we bought in Austin. Crazy man. On paper, I'm multimillionaire. Crazy man, because you heard about Austin, Texas. So my point being is that life is where it takes you, but we are speaking about community, learning, being together. And again, because it can be a lonely world, but it's not perfect. Always will be some trauma. Yeah, we have COVID now, and tomorrow will be something else. But again, we have each other, and the community is. So here I go back. So the Russians liberated us. And big story. Check me out on the internet. Read, you don't have to buy the book. But it's like destiny has it. They made us live with a couple Ukrainian mother and daughter, and they hated we were imposed on them. We got a little room with this little window. So when the Russians liberated us, they told them that my father was a conspirator with the Nazis. So they put him in jail. Everybody was heading home somehow. There were cars, there was no transportation, and they put my father under the Russians. That's why I would not go to Russia, I would be scared. They put you in jail, and then maybe they have a trial before anything. So they put my father, and we could not live without him. So my mother, that had no voice or nothing, she was strong, really strong. I don't know how she got him out of the prison. The story is that, she had some shoes, so she bribed the guy at the jail for the shoes, and we went there to pick up Papa. He was broken, spirit and body, could not. But again, we came home somewhat, and as soon as possible, Romania, we came back, the house was taken away, the family house, by the Russians. As soon as we could, we went to Israel. So in 1949, it was 1 year after Israel became a state in 1948. And I cannot tell you, why would I? The feeling of being part of a majority. Because as a Jew, when I came back from the camp, I was 11 and a half. The first time I went to school in 5th grade. It was a Romanian school. My mother tongue was German. But I knew physics, Newton's law of some gravity, who knows what. I was sitting in the class in Romania, in Chernobyl, looking around to see whether anybody makes their cross, whether there was anybody else that doesn't. I looked around, everybody, they were all Christian kids, and then there was me. So I was branded being Jewish, and I was kind of almost looked out so I would not be beaten or something like that. So when I went to Israel, and I was the majority, I felt so safe. I was so proud. I could not believe our good fortune, because it was a miracle. My whole family, my father's family, my mother's family, they all were, in the ovens, burned, whatever. I don't know about miracle, but my mother, father, my sister, and me, we came out alive, but barely, but we came out alive. And we all ended up in Israel, and then it was absolutely amazing. I was there for 8 years. In order, I told some of you, in Israel, whether you're a girl or a boy, when you're 17 and a half, you have to join the armed forces. But girls, they got a break. If they got married or they say they're religious, Orthodox, they didn't have to go. But to me, it was a no-brainer. I'm going to go. But meantime, I need to learn. Learning was very important to me. So I had 2 jobs during the day, and I went at night 3 years to high school. So when I was 17 and a half, I enlisted in the armed forces, and I wanted to go to the Air Force because I told you I liked the uniforms. They were Navy. They were not green, boring. So I said, I'm going to be in the Air Force. And those pilots, my gosh, they were so handsome, tall and handsome. So they asked, how are you going to get into the Air Force? I said, watch me. I think I'm a little bit delusional. I think if I want something, I make it happen, like with my movie. The script is written, and now I just send a copy to Spielberg. Maybe you look at it. I need a producer. I need somebody to whatever. I see a red carpet. Shoot me. So I saw me in the Air Force. And guess what? I got into the Air Force, 2 years in the Air Force. And I've been absolutely, life-affirming. I was safe. I was different, unique. All my friends got married. I was then, when I got out of there, because I spoke English, I was educated. And I was at the border, the Syrian border. And I can tell you, I am little but mighty. I am tough. I learned how to shoot, throw grenades. I am a soldier. So I saw that if my neighborhood, if it would be unsafe, I could see having a gun and protect the family. So don't mess with me, California. So, right. So when I went out from the Air Force, and yeah, life is a mixed bag. You have to embrace it all. Really sad. My first boyfriend, Aaron, a pilot, we were planning for our future. He was shot down and killed. So I said, that's it. I will never get married. I don't need a man. Why bother? They either, they're going to, die on you or who knows what. So I never thought I would get married. I'm very not normal. Never mind my father, but my mother was really worried because I was smart. Education was not in those days. To me, I was educated. I had a high school degree. Nobody else had it, not boys or girls, that I'll never find a husband. I didn't care about the husband. I just wanted to live life. Did not know exactly. So my point being is my sister, they went to Los Angeles, opportunity. They had a hard time financially, and my brother-in-law's aunt was in Los Angeles, and she was alone, and she said, come on, I need help, I'll buy your house, who knows what. So I worked for the Israeli government Tourist Information Office for 2 years after the Air Force, because I spoke the English, I spoke the language, and again, it was very prestigious. I traveled around the country to show, to tourist guides, whatever it is. So I just went for a visit. And destiny has it. I was an old maid by now, 26, 27. It's amazing how things happen. A psychic, and you might know more than you want to hear from me, but I don't know how much time. You have to tell me when I have to stop. Is that I'm intrigued. It's not a belief. I'm intrigued with psychics phenomena, with astrology. It's not a belief. I'm intrigued. So just before I got permission for vacation to take 2 weeks to travel in Europe and then visit my sister and come back home, in those days, a 25 or 26-year-old woman alone to travel in the world by herself, are you kidding me? So there was a psychic from Haifa. She came to Tel Aviv, and a bunch of our girlfriends, we had individual sessions with the psychic. And I'm very skeptic. I'm not about fake news. So when she came to me, she said, I see you want your future here, but it's not going to be here. I see you by the end of the year, you're going to be far away over the ocean. You're going to marry a widower, and you're going to have 2 kids. Automatically, tears were gushing out automatically, like later when I were sirens, when I heard. It's a response, automatic, not that I felt it, because what is she talking about? There's no way. I used to judge Israelis that went to other parts of the world for a better opportunity because life was tough there. There's no way, because all Jews have to be in Israel. Bullshit. We Jews have to be all over the world, just like the way we are. And we'll never disappear. We had a chance to disappear a long time ago. So, but when she said that, I said, so somehow, okay, I did not make it happen. It's amazing that what Destiny Be Shared is all about. I was visiting, and it was high holidays, the end of the year, the holidays or whatever. So here, this woman, Bina, a cousin of my sister, doesn't matter. She was sitting in the temple. Here was a woman and a young man next to her. And she said, oh, is he single? So this woman said, yeah, he's single. Oh, do I know a nice Jewish girl from Israel? She's just visiting here. Maybe he could call her up. Because my sister wanted so much for me to stay that maybe my parents would come to Israel. We would be all united. I have 5 more minutes? Or I okay. Yeah. My husband that I married, he was a widower for 2 years into that. Unexpected. They just got married, honeymoon. She was pregnant, and she died. So my point being is, it's like the shared, the destiny is a whole different story. So yeah, so you heard from the camp to Israel, to Los Angeles, and being married 53 years. I have 5 grandkids. Give me character, they all are wonderful. And I ran 10 mental health clinics for 40 years to fix. I went to school and I could, to fix that contorted face was laying next to me that I could not fix. So purpose and passion in life, tikkun olam, be part of the community, give of yourself, and then again, be in the moment. So my thing is I have a lot of whatever they're called, sayings. But life takes guts, grit, and gusto. Guts means courage. Grit means persevere, wait, be patient till you get what you want to. But gusto, be grateful, be in the moment. Because again, why are you here? Young people die too. But purpose and passion is important. And you have it because you're here. And I can go on forever. So I'm so grateful that I'm alive. I'm like Dracula with blood. Because I make you smile. Look at me, big deal. I never brag, I just share. If I can do it, you can do it. Cut, shut up, yeah?
There's some water there if you want some water.
Okay.
Okay. You had some questions sheets on your chairs. If you filled those out, could you please pass them to the end of the aisle? We want to make sure we get your questions answered. Pass them down to the end of the aisle and we'll collect those.
I'm out of control.
Oh, that's okay. You want some water?
Not really.
Not really? I do.
Because, no, my bladder is not as good as it used to be.
Okay.
I have the elephant in the room. Yeah, I say what it is. Okay.
I love it. Okay, I'm going to ask you the question. I'm going to pass you the mic. I'm going to sneak over there and see if there's another mic for both of us here, but I'll pass you. Please describe your daily life in the camp. Talk about local people that aided and abetted the Nazis in their crimes. So you told us a little bit about the guard that you met that would give you chocolate. Tell us about anyone else you remember from your days in the camp. And I'm going to sneak over there and see if there's another mic. Here.
Okay. Like animals in the zoo, we did not have any visitors. All the people that were in the camp, so I did not come in contact with the locals. They came, I remember, my mother we got some kind of, my father, because he worked for the Germans, had a little bit money. So local people came to sell their, their potatoes or something, but we did not interact with anybody other than the Jews and the guards. And I don't have memory, good people. And it's to me, I told you before, I tell you again, there was no routine. I remember jumping, like I said, I remember being on the stage singing, because they were doctors, they were entrepreneurs, they were teachers there. So we had to do something. But trauma means, I don't remember. Sometimes I have flashes. It's really fascinating to me. 80 years later, I had this thing with dogs. Keep away dogs from me. Dogs are wonderful, for animals. My grandkids, whenever take the dog away from me, and it just popped up. I was very upset of myself. Talia, my granddaughter, she's in college graduating, and her dog, she was with her parents, breaking the fasts in my house, Yom Kippur. So she wanted to bring the dog, to be a little bit with the dog. So she texted me, Bobby, can I bring, dog, Zeke or whatever? I said, no, Talia. Bobby, please, he's such a good dog. Talia, what don't you understand about it? He agitates me, no. And I said, you don't have to like it, but please understand me. So she said, I understand you. It really bothered me. And out of nowhere, there was a flash. Those dogs, the barking dogs with the Germans, I mean, they were around, and I was scared, but I'm an old person now. So once I realized I was traumatized by those dogs, it's nothing to do with Talia's dog. We never had a dog. So I now, when I come to the house, because I know it, I'm very quiet around the dog. So my point being is, I do not remember, we did not have a routine, no idea. And it's kind of really interesting, because the Holocaust is not the only trauma that people experience, because when you have been beaten at home and all the other things, so sorry, I cannot tell you, because 4 years is an eternity, and I don't remember, I just remember flashes.
What was the thought that was constantly running through your head? What was the most intense thing you ever saw?
It is the screaming, like at the station, like Schindler on the Roof. I don't know whether you saw Spielberg's movie. When we were in the cattle train, and all the mayhem, and I saw a soldier. I don't know whether it was Romanian or German. The woman screaming and with the baby, and he grabbing the baby and throwing the baby on the floor and shooting it. That was I will never forget that. And the other one, my father, he was laying there and they were beating him, and I wanted to go and help him, and my mother kept him. So there were a lot of those atrocities that I witnessed. How lucky am I that it's like I see like video, but I do not feel. It's like when the sirens, my son was in a band, whenever the drums in high school, tears were gushing. I did not know why. Of course, I figured it out. The drums from the war, or the sirens. And then suddenly it stopped on the freeway, when I had the siren coming from the war things. So automatically the tears came, and then suddenly it stopped. I was healed. For me still, after 80 years, to figure out what is it with me with dogs. So my neighbor, when I used to come there, she used to put the dog out, whatever. Now I came the other day, you don't have to take the dog away from me anymore. I figured it out. So it's like how lucky that I'm alive, how lucky I'm introspective, and I am definitely healed. Doesn't mean I don't see it, but I don't feel it. That's why I could be a real good psychologist for 40 years. I could see people's pain. Let's figure out what can you do with what I cannot do, and not taking home their pain. Like so many therapists, they're devastated because it's horrible that people go through trauma. It doesn't have to be just the Holocaust.
You've mentioned your sister, 5 years older than you. How did she do after the war?
I felt terribly bad for her, because she had no respect from her husband or her kids. They used to say, why can't you be more like your sister Erica? Because I went to school, I achieved. She was beaten down. This is what God wants. She had no power. She was a waitress, nothing wrong with what we do. But she was, when I saw the video, when she was interviewed by Spielberg, by Shoah, and I saw it, and she shared, and she was crying. I felt so sad for her because I didn't have those feelings. I am because of it, in spite of it. And again, nobody should experience what I did, but I'm sure I would not be the person today with my voice and with my healing abilities if I would not go through that. So my sister, she was put down by her kids, and I hated to hear her being compared to me.
Did you feel like her age had something to do with it? She was a little bit older, maybe she processed all of that a little bit differently?
You know, but must be the age, but then also the way we were put together. I was a bad girl. I gave my mother trouble. I was going and doing things, hiding behind. She used to hit me. I didn't care. So I was one of those. So my sister, probably a combination. She was 5 years older.
Right.
Probably.
How did you find faith in your most fearful moments, or did you?
Sorry, Rabbi. I don't know about faith. I struggle with it. I really don't. Because I do know, I'm not Einstein, I do know there's something, they're all interconnected. There's something power, and it's so funny because my conservative temple, I just go because of the community. I like singing, but I don't pray. It's boring words. So when we had a priest and a pastor, whatever, together, speaking about religion, and so I always have an opinion. So I said, Rabbi, if I were to believe in Jesus, like the Christians, our friends, then I could offer Jesus and pray to him. But again, God is poof. What do I know?
Okay.
So, but again, but then I always say, and then we had a meeting in a table in a church, and everybody around, they were Christian, Muslim, whatever. When it came to me, I said, sorry, I struggle with God. I don't know about God because I am too concrete. I just doesn't mean there isn't. And they say, oh, I feel so sorry for you, this and that. I said, but I believe in destiny. And one of the women said, oh, if you believe in destiny, that's God. I said, if destiny is God, I believe in God.
Very good. Can you talk about the day you were liberated? Do you remember that day?
I sure do. Really interesting. Suddenly, we did not know, bombs, noises, bombs. And suddenly we saw Germans. They were very well dressed, put together. And here I saw German soldiers disheveled, running, and noise and shooting. And they knocked at the door asking if there's any food. German Nazis. So I kind of was bewildered. What was going on? They were running. That was the day when the Russians came to liberate us. So it was, to me, they those put together German soldiers, for them to run away, to be scared. Their faces looked like the faces that I remember, those, the contorted face of the woman. To see the German guards, Germans, tall, blonde, whatever, disheveled and asking for food. That was the liberating day. I didn't know what was happening because there was a lot of noise and shooting and all that kind of thing, but that is what the camp was liberated by the Russians.
How did your family react?
I just know that my mother was looking for some eggs or something to give to the Germans to not be in trouble. So I do know, and again, my memory is very kind of, very fade. My father, those mother and daughter, the Russians came and they put my father in jail. And all the other people were starting to walk back home, or they got a ride in wagons from Christians for some whatever. And I remember we could not leave because we could not live without Papa. So yeah, it was a joy that we were free, but we could not go because we could not live without Papa. So for a little kid like me, I was not so little anymore, I was 11. So we went to the jail, and my mother bribed the guard with some shoes or something. He came out beaten, and then we walked a little bit. He couldn't walk. So my sister was wailing, crying, and my mother, the weak mother, she was strong. And I had to be strong for Mama. So Mama, his name was Emmanuel Mendy. So she said, I've never heard of being so strong. Mendel, come on, we have to go, in German. Come, stand up. So here he got up, go without me, I don't want to live, whatever. He really could not, because he was in a cage for I don't know how long. We were there 2 or 3 weeks. Time means nothing. I cannot remember the time. So somehow I had to be strong for Mama. My sister was crying, so I helped Mama holding Papa up, and we ended up in some place, like, sleeping outside. There were a lot of farms on the way home. So sleeping at night, we went with the chickens out or something. I don't know how, because like I said, I have lots of memory losses. Somehow we ended up in Chernobyl with Papa barely walking. But I could not believe how many layers we have. My mother, she was the beaten down, no self, but when she needed to be strong, she was. And we ended up back home. Our house was taken, the compound, by the Russians. And here, the Russian front was still active. So they were looking still for soldiers. So they were looking for the men, for the Jewish men liberated. Oh. So they grabbed my father too.
Wow.
And my mother saved him because we went there, and when they walked by, she kind of snuck in because the guard was not there. She grabbed him and she brought him there. Mendel, stay here. He was scared. And by the way, so then we were in hiding because the Russians still needed soldiers. But again, in Israel, can you imagine what trauma does my father? Whenever he saw a soldier, Israeli, he used to cross the other side. He was scared of authority.
Wow. Well, understandable. Why? It's amazing to me that after these different places were liberated, that people just walked, tried to walk to get home, or maybe got, like you said, a ride every once in a while with a Christian, but I can't imagine.
Walking there, but then at least there were cattle trains, and by the way, I need to share that because I'm really tough, I'm really strong, but I'm vulnerable inside. Nobody knows me, my kids, my grandkids, I'm so strong, but I'm vulnerable as well. So we are speaking about seeing all that misery, all those atrocities, and you cannot allow yourself. In crisis, I get like my mother. In crisis, you act. When there's an earthquake, in California, we don't have the storms or something, but we have earthquakes. So being strong is the opposite of being vulnerable. So it's like, yeah, you know what? People walk, people do what you have to do. So I'm very lucky that I'm here talking to you, and I know it.
And you have done so much since your experiences there. I mean, is it just in your nature, in your personality, to handle trauma in that way?
It has to be, because nobody can teach you. It's like when I say I'm a survivor, I'm a striver. I was a very hard mother to be for my daughter, special, because unless you're dying, figure it out. It was really tough for her because my husband, he was an enabler. She could do no wrong, and to me, everything. She's a drama queen. She still is. She's 61. Get off it. So yeah, unless it's all give me gift of life that keeps on giving. When I say hello to the casket every day, and by the way, they finally interviewed me. I don't know how they found me, from USC Shoah testimony. They came to my house 3 weeks ago. I said, why not? I don't know who told me, filled out it had to be, because my sister told the story. I wrote my books. I don't need to do it. But they came, they interviewed me. Instead of an hour and a half, it was 3 hours. And I will get the tape, from the interview. And I have a home theater. I don't brag, I just share. Okay, if you're in my neighborhood, you have a movie, you can screen in my movie house. So we will see the tape, and then I will have a party with my casket. I will have the casket on the stage. I have a stage, and like I said, I have the dress, the white dress with my boots. My silvery boots are hanging there, ready to go when I need to.
You need to post all this on Facebook so we can see it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Watch me on Facebook. So yeah, a celebration, is that normal? No, it isn't. But it is like, I want to hear what people will say. All my young friends, friends will come to the party to see my movie for the Holocaust, my testimony, and then they'll see my take on, I'm ready, my life is in order, so I can be in the moment. That's what I'm asking you to do, and listen to my accent and voice. Be in the moment, enjoy, be grateful. It doesn't have to be Thanksgiving. So I, as an educator, I'm going to have a party, and my coffin with my dress, I will wear my dress that I'm going to be buried in, a white dress with it, so to make a case, because life is terribly short. Enjoy the moment. Life owes you nothing. Am I screaming at you? Okay.
No, it's good. We can hear you, so that's good. Was there something that gave you the will to survive at the camp? What was it?
I was always, don't tell me I cannot do it. I was contrary. Like I said, I was a hard kid for my mother. It's like, no. I talked to myself. I'm not schmutzige Jude. Mother, why do they call us schmutzige Juden? I wasn't schmutzig, I wasn't dirty. So it's like I was defiant. So to me, just because I'm Jewish, I don't have to die. I told you before, just because, don't tell me I cannot do it. Look at my fist. I get killed. I don't have to, hopefully. But yeah.
With all the living in the moment, this makes the second part of the question very interesting. Did you have dreams of what am I going to do when I get out of here? Did you think that far ahead? Like, what do I want to do with my life when I get out of here?
No, that's what I mean, being in the moment. I did not know it. But you know what, dreams, it's nice, and we have to have visions before we can make things happen. But remember, I was 11 years old, and it's about surviving, being in the moment. And I continue saying that in the moment. I didn't have any visions. I had a vision when I was in Israel. I want to become a healer for that face. I will never get over that wailing woman that I couldn't touch. She was all alone. But in Israel, the only medical schools was in Jerusalem. I could not. We couldn't afford it. Are you kidding me? And then when I came to the country, I felt so guilty. I went to University of Judaism. I became a Hebrew school teacher to at least teach Hebrew. I did for 8 years. So when soon my son was in first grade, I deemed, I always had the vision part of me. I wanted to become a doctor to heal. But the first opportunity when I felt safe, I always said, if that is a vision I did when I was in Israel, when I was safe, I wanted to heal. But I never, but sometimes you have to postpone gratification, which I did, but I never gave up. So dreams are a wonderful thing. If you don't have vision or dreams, you can never make things happen. And if you don't, you don't. There's no failure. You know, people say you work so hard. I didn't have a toilet for years, outdoors, whatever. I have 5 toilets where I live now. Can you imagine that? Mm-hmm. So my point being is, it's nice to have, you work so hard. A lot of people work hard. So it's not just destiny, God, Alevai, Shulim, whatever. It just happened. My good fortune, a friend of mine, she's the only one still alive, and she's still okay there. She's saying that I'm catching me out, the reason why I'm still alive and doing so well. She said, you so inspired the world. There's a reason why you're alive and you're doing so well, because they need to hear your voice. Guess what? What do I know? I'm here. Listen, do you hear me?
This is kind of a last question. It's a combination of a bunch of questions because they're kind of on the same topic. And it has to do with COVID. A lot of people during COVID, I mean, they're absolutely not comparable, but a lot of people through COVID feel like they have experienced trauma. They've seen pain. Maybe they've had a loved one die. Maybe they've had, how have you dealt with COVID? Has it disturbed memories from the past? Have you taken it in stride? What advice would you give for people who do feel traumatized by the times that we're currently in?
Not helpful, unless you're dying. We had wars, it's a war, it's a pandemic we had before, we'll have them again. Let's try to keep alive. Mm-hmm. You do what you can do, what not. So you have to be respectful. Some people overreact. For some, it's the first time. My kids, are you kidding me? It's the first time there's a crisis, there is a war. Mm-hmm. Call it COVID, call it something else. So it's easier said than done, because it's like, what can I do vis-a-vis what you cannot do? So keep, be mindful, do vaccination, whatever. But it's like, if you get it, you get it. But how lucky, we're talking, you don't have it. If you have it mildly, or you survived. So to me, it's like I embrace everything comes my way because I have been exposed to other epidemics. So I'm not the right one to ask. Mm-hmm. I say, how lucky you are to be here. Many millions, 100,000 are dead. And it will never not be. The epidemics for rabbits or for people, I mean, that's how the nature keep in check. Mm-hmm. There is an epidemic. There were before, there are going to be others. So it's like, what can we do? How can we lend a hand to our neighbor? Whether there is, when there's fires or nothing. So this is an example. So I'm a seasoned warrior. So to me, it's like such is life. Life doesn't owe you anything. It happens. It's about surviving the best you can do and help your neighbor, help your kids.
Okay. A couple more questions. Have you revisited the camp that you were in? Have you ever gone back there?
No. I would. I'm not particularly interested. I can see it very clearly. It was interesting too. I have a young group of women that come to my house for 4 years in the same neighborhood. It's a gated community, and they want to go. It's going to return to Israel, to Auschwitz, and all that kind of thing. So wanted me to come with them. So I said, why would I lived it? Why would I need to go? Whatever. But I wanted to please them. So there was a meeting at the temple, and the woman, the organizers, showed videos of the March of the Living, where people go and you see all that kind of thing. In an instant, I knew there's no way I will expose myself to it. Why would I? I would like to please, but I'm mad too. It is absolutely horrible. I know, I've been there, maybe not in Auschwitz, I was not actually in the oven, but close. So I have no need to go back. But the other hand, I'm really glad I did. My daughter wanted to go back where I lived. It's a compound in Romania. So when she said, Mother, I really would like to go back to see where the train station was, where you started when you're a kid and all that. So I said, why would I want to go? Let him go to hell. Who needs to go back to Romania? By the way, I didn't want to go to Cuba either. Why did Cuba? It's like Romania, schmutzig, huh? And so glad that I went to Cuba. It was very interesting to me. So I'm really glad that I did go, because I was a hard act to follow for my daughter. I still am. So yeah, she's 5'7", 8". I would kill for a few more inches, but she's not petite, and she cannot measure up for me, because unless you're dying, pick yourself up and go to school. So again, so I did go with her, and I'm really glad I did, because I hoped she would get me. Mm-hmm. Because I'm not a monster, but I don't get, everything is not a big drama. You're alive, nobody's dying. It's not helping any when you are in.
It is interesting, though. Some people feel like they want to go back and kind of come full circle in that part of your life, and you did not feel the need to do that.
No, I move forward. I remember, I don't deny, it's really interesting, because a lot of people, when people have cancer, some people don't want to say the word cancer. You don't want to offend the people. People like to talk about their condition. Holocaust survivors, many, cannot talk about their story because they're falling apart. So I had about 40 therapists working for me. I had 10 mental health clinics I ran in Los Angeles, Orange County, and in that area. I had 40 therapists for all those years. Nobody, they knew my past in the camp. Nobody ever asked me about my background, okay? Meaning, again, not that I cannot talk about it. Look at me. Mm-hmm. I'm very clear. I'm doing whatever, but I don't have a need to revisit. Revisit what? It was really interesting. I have lots of stories, and you give me one more second, it's a really important story. I went with my husband, Jerry, to Washington, D.C., to the Holocaust Museum. And we walked in there, and here there was the place where they saw from different camps in Europe, and the cattle train, and then all those shoes, shoes of the people, whatever. So I looked at those shoes, and I looked at the people. I was looking, maybe I can find myself. And I was looking, and again, tears were gushing automatically, because I must have been horribly traumatized as a kid. No shoes, and I have lots of stories in my book. So my husband, protective, tall, almost 6 foot, my protector, is, oh my gosh, you're crying. I said, Jerry, go away. I needed that experience for myself. I needed that. But again, I have no need. And then later I was sitting there to listen to the stories that the mother was grabbing away food from the kid. I mean, a mother wouldn't do that, but survival. And I mean, she was staring, I was staring, then we got up, I never looked at her, and I moved on. So I do not live in the past. I know it, I can talk about it. It's called detachment. Some people never get there. So I remember when I was in graduate school, my colleagues, they came out from sessions, they were crying. the misery. There's a lot of drama, trauma in the world. And I was not crying. I always knew it's their pain, not mine. So I asked Dr. Sharma, he was my supervisor, a psychiatrist from India. Dr. Sharma, what's the matter with me? Look at my colleagues, they're all tearful, whatever. And I know it's their problem. I'm strong for them. So we figured out, what can we do? So he said, you are so lucky. Some people never get to your place. That's called detachment. And I guess you can learn to. It's very hard. Some of us are better than others. I see, I do live in the moment. I mean it. I have visions. I have strategies, whatever. I will never stop. But I don't have the need to go back into the hole. Yeah, I go holes in Mount Everest. I go holes, exploring things. But I never had the need because, again, I accept what is. And, it's a gift. Mm-hmm. I don't know how come.
All right. Well, we want to thank you so much for being with us tonight. We know you're sticking around. You're going to be signing some books. And Dr. Erica Miller, please give her a hand, and thank you again so much. Yeah.
By the way, I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful to be alive. I'm grateful for you being here. And you are special, and it's not fake news. Mere fact that you're out and you want to hear news, you want to participate in the community. And again, it's all about me, because by telling this story, but it's like I give and I get. Look at your applaud. I'm this little pitchkily, barely 5 foot. Huh? I will never lie about my age, but I'll lie about my height for sure.
You are joy. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.